Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, coming to you live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. Coming up this evening, President John Mahama comes under intense pressure to declare state of emergency. Tonight, we tell you what exactly the latest voice adding to the pressure on the president is.
They should drive them, and if necessary, they resist. They must also resist, because anybody who attacks the nation, the way that these Galamsey people are doing, is like an army invading our country, and they must equally resist.
We have details of that for you in a jiffy. Also coming up, manhunt for 4 gold dealers after police arrest 3 individuals suspected to be engaged in illicit gold transactions. And later, a staggering 9 out of 10 political parties failed to comply with Political Parties Act, which mandates them to declare source of their funding for political campaigns. That's according to CDD report.
You would find some very staggering statistics, right? And it's not just a Ghana problem. Not only in Ghana are we running elections where candidates are putting up millions of dollars, tens.
We will give you an update of what exactly the findings of the report says as to why political parties are unable to tell us their source of funding. We are live around the world on 3news.com. We are also on Facebook and on YouTube, and we love to hear from you, so do let us know what you make of the many stories we have for you tonight. We are starting with issues about GOLDBOD, but before that, let's bring you the news summaries with Christabel.
All right, thank you very much, Martin. And in a summary tonight, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Governs Kwame Abuja, has given firm assurances that the newly launched Big Push Road project in Afenya in the Greater Accra region will be completed in under 24 months. He described the initiative as a bold intervention that goes beyond politics. Now, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, and allied groups on Tuesday, September 16, staged a major demonstration in Accra Central Business District to protest what they describe as the unlawful takeover of lands allocated for lorry stations at the Cocoa Marketing Board area. The protesters, made up of drivers, traders, and market women, accused the private developers of encroaching on the land with the backing of the Railway Authority. Addressing the crowd, the Industrial Relations Officer of the GPRTU, Alhaji Abasi Moro, lamented the continuous loss of their stations to private interests. In other stories, students of Tamale Technical University have staged a protest on Tuesday, September 16, demanding improved welfare conditions and urgent infrastructure development on campus. According to the students, management has failed to account for development levies charged in their fees over the years, insisting that no visible projects have been initiated despite continuous payments. Speaking during the protest, Mahamudu Musa, who is the PRO of the Students' Representative Council, accused the university administration of neglect. Just before we go, a coalition of nearly 400 individuals and organizations has called for the immediate cancellation of the Israeli Film Festival scheduled to take place at Silverbird Cinema, Accra, from today, Tuesday, September 16 to 20th, 2025. The coalition, which includes prominent public figures, academics, artists, activists, and faith-based organizations, argues that the event is an attempt to whitewash genocide and apartheid amid the ongoing humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. We have this on our website and a whole lot more for you. Please do well to visit 3news.com. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much. And we are starting from issues about Ghana's GOLDBOD, and they have arrested 3 individuals suspected to be engaged in illicit gold transactions. 4 others are on the run, and police is in search for them for a bounty of 1 million Ghana cedis for each. According to the Chief Executive Officer, Sami Jemfi, the arrest is part of a broader effort to combat gold smuggling and enforce the country's gold trading laws.
On the 26th of August 2025, we got intel through one of our hotlines from a patriotic citizen of the land to the effect that some foreigners were in cahoots with certain licensed traders of the gold board. What they were doing basically is that they give funds to these licensed traders of the gold board for the purpose of buying gold for and on their behalf, which gold they pick up from Takwa through various Ghanaian couriers. It was discovered that the substances were indeed gold, and they had an average purity of 92.5% per the price of gold at the time. The gold was valued at almost 10.2 million Ghana cedis. And from the findings of our investigation so far and what suspects in custody have told us, it does appear that the shareholder of the company, by name Rafik Mohammed Nandoli, Rafmo for short, who is also called Salam, is the mastermind and sponsor of this whole gold smuggling syndicate we've been tracking for a couple of months now. Per what suspects in custody have told us, they bought nothing less than 100 kilograms of gold. And 100 kilograms of gold will be worth more than 120 million Ghana cedis. The entity called NK Benak Enterprise and its sole proprietor Bernard Nkrumah have been closed down by the gold board. They no longer have any lawful authorization to trade in gold, as their license has been suspended forthwith. And so if you have any business whatsoever to do with them relative to gold trading, you must cease from that forthwith. All these persons I've mentioned, the 3 suspects already in custody and the 4 persons at large, have all been charged for dealing in gold without authorization, for facilitating gold smuggling, for smuggling gold, for transporting gold without authorization, and for attempting to smuggle gold.
And that's the voice of Sami Jemfi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Gold Board, outlining what transpired in finding some gentlemen who were trading gold illegally in the country. So we would update you on what exactly their next line of action would be. In a related development, the Catholic Bishops' Conference is tonight mounting pressure on President John Mahama to declare a state of emergency in the fight against Galamsey. The call is coming just a day after the Media Coalition Against Galamsey made similar demands. The coalition became the latest to join in the call to declare a state of emergency. President of the Ghana Catholic Bishop Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Jemfi, said that the president is not aware of the gravity of the situation at hand. He spoke earlier on Hot Edition.
The distraction that is going on is extraordinary, is grievous, is dangerous, and it doesn't call for any other simple, delayed correction. They call for extraordinary measures. And this is about life and death of the nation. And that is why we call on the leadership of the country to take extraordinary measures. When there is death approaching you, you don't delay. You take urgent measures to halt it. And this is death, destruction of our nation. So why should we wait? In other words, we should stop it immediately. We should put an end for it. Why should you delay? Why should we sip a poison that is killing us? You don't sip it. You stop it. You throw it away. So the president who is leading the nation must stand up and deliver his country from death from distraction. And so he should stop and use all the resources available to him, all the resources of the country, to put a stop, immediate stop, to Galamsey. Well, I don't know. I believe that the president is not aware of the gravity and the seriousness of the issue at hand. He may not be aware. And if he's aware, then I wonder why he would say that. And I say this as somebody who has seen some sections of the progress. Look at our rivers. Look at the dangers. Look at farmlands. Look at this. It's like a war declared on Ghana, on our very livelihood. So why is the president not declare a state of emergency? Unless he's not aware. And we are reminding him and telling him of some of the dangers, the immediacy, and the urgency that the country is in. For the president to be aware of these things and to declare a state of emergency, halt all Galamsey, whether legal or illegal, the consequences are there, and they should sweep off all of these people from the ground. This is not something that we can solve piecemeal. It is not something that we can solve by installments. We have tried the method that the government is doing now. It didn't work. Why should we try the same method that didn't work? So there should be putting 1 battalion as a suggestion from this guy. And I think I agree with him. 1 battalion soldiers, fully armed, to sweep our forests. I said they should drive them. And if necessary, they resist. They must also resist, because anybody who attacks the nation, the way that these Galamsey people are doing, is like an army invading our country, and they must equally resist. And they must live peacefully, or the soldiers must drive them out like soldiers who are invading our country. This is not time for talking about small things when our lives are in danger. The water we drink, the food we eat, the babies are being born. Then what is our future? What does this paltry small amount of gold that we get, what does it do to our nation? And even if we get it and we are dead, we are deformed, what will be the value of it? Dangerous.
Right. So you heard the voice of Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Gyamfi, who is the president of the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference, raising a number of questions which I will be redirecting to my guests who've joined me on phone this evening. We have Seth Wolashime, who is a mining consultant, and then also we have Richard Kumado, a security consultant. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining us on Hot Edition.
Thank you, Martin.
I'll start
Good evening, Martin.
Right, I'll start with you, Mr. Wolashime. I think there is some kind of a challenge, in trying to find out what exactly Galamsey and small-scale mining is. So for the person who does not or cannot really tell the difference, help us understand, beyond mining in the forest, which is wrong, or mining in the river, which is wrong, when you see someone mining in an open field, how do you tell whether this is Galamsey or this is small-scale, a regular small-scale mine?
Well, the term Galamsey is an illegal activity. Small-scale mining has been sanctioned by our laws, and so the difference is that one is legal and the other is illegal. So it doesn't matter whether you are not doing it in a river body or a forest reserve, as long as you don't have the approval of Minerals Commission to mine, then that activity can be termed as Galamsey. And those who have the permit to mine, those are called small-scale mining.
Right. So someone can be mining in a legitimate or an area that has been seeded off for mining, but if they are doing it illegally without the requisite permission, that can be seen as galamsey or termed as galamsey.
Precisely.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Now, if you look across, and having been a mining consultant yourself, if you look across the country, the concerns that have been raised about galamsey, many assumed was largely in our forest reserves and in our water bodies. So if someone who is licensed is using banned chemicals, which is resulting in the kind of deformed babies, etc., and health concerns being raised, that legally permitted miner is also doing galamsey. Would that be a fair assertion?
No, it is wrong. You see, the Minerals Commission has been empowered by the laws of the country to supervise the mining sector of our economy. Now, they have the mines department under the Minerals Commission. And the mines department is supposed to go and see the operations of these small-scale miners and make sure that they conform with what we call a best practice. For example, if you are going to open a pit for mining, it should be opened in such a way that it will be safe so that it doesn't cave in on the people who are working. Something we have experienced, in this country, many times, just because we don't have the right supervision. So if somebody is using a chemical that is not supposed to be used, the supervisory role of Minerals Commission should be able to uncover that, and that should be able to, they should be able to advise them that no, it is not possible that you can use this and that, because the effect on the environment is negative.
Okay. Thank you. And kindly hold on for me. Let me bring in Mr. Kumado. Mr. Kumado, the call for the declaration of a state of emergency has become quite cliche. On a daily basis, you hear, declare state of emergency, Mr. President, declare. The President has sought to explain why he believes it will be challenging, or we are not there yet for him to declare a state of emergency. As a security consultant, first of all, explain to us what the term state of emergency means, and if you understood what the President sought to tell us on the day he met the media.
So, for the purposes of public education and to the lay person, when the President spoke about the state of emergency in relation to galamsey, is definitely going to be a restrictive measure backed by law or the Constitution that empowers the President to declare a restrictive measure to be enforced by the law enforcement agencies in curtailing and preventing the effect of galamsey on human lives all across the country. Now, because of the word restrictive measure and because of the word to curtail and to prevent, it means that it comes under certain protocols and procedures which the law enforcement agencies, particularly the military, will have to enforce it. When you do that, three things happen. You have high levels of discomfort around the areas where the state of emergency is declared. Number two, in enforcing the laws, it could lead to casualties on both sides. Number three, because you want to achieve safety and security compliance, there's high-handedness by those assigned to enforce the laws. So we as law enforcement officers, we will ask the President, do you want us to enter into all our forests and the mining areas on a certificate of urgency or on a certificate of emergency? Whichever one the President chooses, the protocol levels are different, the compliance levels are different, the methodologies are different, and the restrictive measures are also different. So that is where we are. But Marty, when you take this whole galamsey issue, there are a few things we are not doing right. There's a whole lot of miscommunication and misinformation around this whole galamsey thing. And once you mistakenly bring in politics, it means that we are being divided on the left or on the right. And I think that is also the reason why the tension is so high. and many things are not being done properly. Number 3, you can be doing the right things wrongly. In the case of mining, you can even have the license and you may not follow the standard protocols, which means that the effect or the outcome of your mining will have the same impact Galamsey is having. And that is to say that, do we want people to mine? Yes. Are they doing it properly? To a very large extent, no. Should they be encouraged to do it properly? Yes. Do we have the best practices elsewhere in the world? Yes. Should we benchmark those practices for them? Yes. Are we at the point of doing that? Yes. But do you want to declare a state of emergency? Because of the restrictive measure and because of the power given to the president or even the local authorities, our chiefs and our DCs and MCCs, you will have to come up with a measure in such a way that you have to be clear whether you want the law enforcement agencies to go in on the certificate of state of emergency or on the certificate of agency. So that is where we are as a nation.
And maybe my final question to you, Mr. Kumado, will be, at what point do you foresee that the president may have to? Already, since assuming office, we've seen the setting up of the IGP task force. They've gone round.
There are a number of things I would have loved the president to do. Number 1, he should repeal the LI 2464, which was a political campaign message. If he had done that, the levels of tension wouldn't be high as we are seeing it now. There has been a discussion, there has been a hesitation of repealing the act. Some people say when we repeal the act, there will be vacuum. All those discussions has been done, and now government has agreed that they will repeal it. When government repeals that particular act, he should call the CSOs and the coalition against Galamsey into his office in the presence of the Minister of Interior, the National Security Coordinator, the Director BNI, and the IGP. Then they will have a discussion with the media or without the media. That will be number 1. Number 2, the coalition against Galamsey have more faith in the task force of the IGP because they can see what they are doing. So they have to hurry up and send the task force of the IGP back to the field, considering the fact that there's a whole lot of areas, a large spectrum of areas that you have illegal mining or unproductive mining or inappropriate mining taking place. The IGP guys must get back to the field. Then number 3, the National Anti-Galamsey people will need to show presence. They will need to show strength. They will need to engage the media so that people will know exactly what they are doing. That will also help. Then number 4, whatever revenue comes from GOLDBOD as a social democratic antidote to Galamsey, about 5% of that revenue we need to go into reclaiming our forests and making sure that those who are mining, they have been trained and the appropriate practices and tools are bought for them. Once we can do this one, government communicators must also communicate properly. If we can do these 5 things off my head, I think we'll be fine as a nation. Because you see, Martin, these guys have been mining for all this while. We are facing challenges because the inappropriateness of what they are doing is affecting our water bodies and our farmlands. And that is where it's posing danger to lives and human lives and property and body and food and almost everything. Right. And those guys in charge of the environmental greenage something, they wouldn't sit quietly. So that is where we are. Let's do it properly. I believe we have the capacity to do it.
All right. Mr. Kumado, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Walashime, so are you also confident, picking up from what Mr. Kumado said, are you confident that mining that we have done all these years, and the latter part, probably in the last decade or so, there have been key major challenges with how mining is evolving over time? Are you confident that with the right measures it can be done well, or there's a situation that probably is gotten out of hand?
Thank you very much, Martin. Martin, I would want to associate myself with some of the comments that Mr. Kumado made. Now, first of all, a state of emergency is not what we need right now. What we need is to place a moratorium on mining. And during that period of moratorium, I'm suggesting 3 months, every mining person or company that has equipment or equipment that have been seized from these illegal activities should be brought on board to reclaim the land. So for 3 months, we should be engaged in reclaiming the land, filling these potholes or manholes that have been created in the bush. Secondly, I heard the president say he's going to send miners, to Australia where there's best practice. I think that we should rather arrange for experts to come from that country to teach people on the ground how to engage in best practice, because this is where the problem is. Number 3, immediately I am suggesting that the GOLDBOD should take an amendment to Parliament to fix a 1% land reclamation fee that will be put into a fund so that we can be using it to reclaim the land as and when the need arises. I think that by and large, we have approached this thing in the wrong way. The very first issue I have is the politicization of the issue. People, when they are in opposition, are saying different things. People in government are saying different things. So the whole conversation is murky. I would want to urge all the political parties involved to henceforth consider this thing as a national emergency.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And also, one thing I keep on saying is that Mineral Commission has been mandated by law to supervise this sector. The earlier we begin to resource them adequately to perform that role, the better it will be for us, because at the end of the day, sending task forces into the bush and things, it's not a solution. It's a temporary stopgap measure.
Okay.
That should be clear to us.
Okay. Mr. Wolashime, certainly a conversation that does not seem to have an end in sight anytime soon. So we certainly will be engaging you more in the coming days as collectively we try and see how we can bring this illegality to an end. Thank you for your time this evening. Seth Wolashime is a mining consultant and has been helping us put into perspective these concerns that have been reiterated by the Catholic Bishops' Conference asking for a state of emergency to be declared. Earlier, you had a security consultant as well who also shared a similar thought on how we can, as a country, use the right security approach in fighting Galamsey. I'm talking about Richard Kumado. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition, and we are going on to some other stories now.
Something quite interesting is coming up, and it says that the cost of winning a presidential election in Ghana has risen to over $200 million. That's according to Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana. Now, speaking at an open society event in Accra on September 15, 2025, the executive director of CDD Ghana, Professor Kwesi Prempeh, warned that the soaring cost of elections could exclude competent leaders who lack access to abundant resources. He explained that this development raises serious concerns about the inclusiveness and sustainability of Ghana's democratic system. He further cautioned that these trends jeopardize Ghana's pursuit of democracy and prosperity, stressing that politics risk becoming preserved for the wealthy and well-connected. Take a listen to him.
When you read the report that is being launched today, you would find some very staggering statistics, right? And it's not just a Ghana problem. Not only in Ghana are we running elections where candidates are putting up millions of dollars, tens of millions. At the presidential level, over $100 billion is what it takes. Actually, that is like 2,000 number. Currently, it's probably double or triple. We don't even know. That's the problem, right? You need about $200 million probably to win a presidential contest. How many of you here are ever going to be in that category, in that cohort of candidates, right? Even the parliamentary level, including at the primary level, it's just impossible, right? You cannot have that kind of a democracy and expect it to be developmental. So we need to worry about things like campaign finance, regulation of internal party democracy. If the parties are the building blocks of our democracy, because we call it multi-party democracy, then what happens in that party? What happens in those parties? What those parties stand for? How they behave, how they choose their leadership. But if you have rules like you have to nurture the constituency, what does that mean? You understand what it means. Before you are chosen by the party oligarchs at the constituency level, you must prove that you have nurtured the constituency. It's one of the rules in some of the parties. What does that mean? You must have fed them while you were out of power or in power with a lot of money. Where are you going to get that from?
And that's the voice of the head of CDD Ghana, who has been sharing a thought on, I'm talking about Professor Henry Kwesi Prempeh, who spoke earlier on issues regarding the funding of political parties, whether or not collectively as a people we need to start funding them. Then on the back of that, we can actually monitor what and where they dispense these finances. But what does the law say about political parties and how they are financed? We've been joined in studio by Wisdom Safo, who is with our research desk here at Media General. Wisdom, thank you for joining us. To start with, I mean, we know that we say we are a law-abiding nation, or we are a country that has laws to guide us. What exactly does the law say about political party financing?
Okay, so Martin, when it comes to political party financing, there's a Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574, which regulates the financing and the resources that these political parties should be used for political campaigns, and some regulations that they have to follow. Christabel, I want you to take us through some section 21 and 23. Then after that, I'll give a breakdown of what is actually in the CDD reports. And if you look into the CDD reports, Martin, it's actually said that over 90% of these political parties do not comply with this Political Parties Act 2000, or the law that regulates the financing. So, Christabel.
All right, so Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574, now to Section 21. It says annual accounts. Every year within 6 months after the end of the financial year, parties must file returns that show the state of the accounts. These must also include sources of funds, membership dues, contributions, and donations, whether cash or in kind, as well as party properties. These returns must be backed by a statutory declaration from the General Secretary and Treasurer and supported by an auditor's report. And on to Section 23, which says contribution to political parties. Political parties are allowed to raise funds, but only lawfully. Contributions and donations can only come from Ghanaian citizens, Ghanaians abroad, and companies or partnerships that are fully Ghanaian owned. Companies with less than 25% foreign ownership are also allowed. But importantly, if parties receive contributions that break these rules, they are not allowed to keep them. Such funds are forfeited to the state. And this will bring us to Section 24, which says foreign contributions or donations. Non-citizens are strictly prohibited from donating directly or indirectly to political parties. If a party accepts such funds, it commits an offense and can be fined up to 10 million cedis, with the donation forfeited to the state. For the non-citizen donor, the consequences are even harsher, where we have a fine of up to 10 million cedis or a 2-year prison term, or even both, and they may even be deported.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Christabel. So why is this even important? You know, it's about leverage. You see, if you have people financing your campaigns, they have a leverage on you. If you win power, you start cutting deals. It brings some conflict of interest, and it kind of brings monocracy, if you put it that way. Our democracy is being bought. because it's now been given to the highest bidder, if you may put it. So let's quickly dive into the CDD's report and the details in it. So if you look at the figures, Martin, actually the report I had was in 2021. So from my analysis, I realized that what Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh was doing, was just a reevaluation of $100 million dollars in 2021. Its valuation currently 2025 years. So if you look at a parliamentary seat, for you to successfully campaign and potentially win a parliamentary seat, you must have around 8 million Ghana cedis. 8 million Ghana cedis. And for the presidential race, as you rightly mentioned, you have to have $200 million. If you look at the current exchange rates, you have to do the math yourself. So you have to have something very huge, almost 2 billion Ghana cedis, to actually win a presidential, or 2.4 billion Ghana cedis to win a presidential election. Now let's look at where the spending normally go. I mean, where do these political parties spend most of these funds? So most of the funds go into direct social support, which includes school fees. They will say, okay, let me sponsor some school fees for my constituents, or for some of the deprived communities, the rents, health, and sometimes student scholarship, as I said earlier. And some also go to political parties related costs, such as the nomination forms, the election night. Conducting elections, you remember, turn on the cameras. Last election, 2024, where he said on the cameras, these are something that you have to procure. And what do you use to procure all this money? And for the financing sources, you realize that most of the financing come from elite financiers. So when Christabel was reading through the act, you realize that they mentioned people, companies, for Ghanaian abroad and all that. So these are elite people. You have to have money in order to give. And these are people actually who are elite, as we said. You have to have something to give. And when they give, they don't expect... They actually expect something in return when you also come to power. So it's a form of leverage. So this is what CDD is saying, that if you don't take care, if you keep on letting people finance our political parties without a check by the Electoral Commission, we risk turning our democracy into moneycracy, and they would eventually lead to conflicts of interest when these political parties win power. Martin.
Okay, that is an assumption that... based on the report from CDD, is actually a part of our daily political life now. But how disturbing is it? Let's engage the thoughts of Dr. Ali Nyaba, who is a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Doc, good evening, and thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening.
How concerning or disturbing is the fact that we are unable to tell who is funding our political parties, who at the end of the day become our leaders? It could be, in the last decade, we've had NDC, NPP, but the question as to where they are sourcing their funding from is a mystery. Is it something we should be worried about as a people?
Thank you so much. Yes, it's a problem, but it's a normal problem with the kind of democracy we are practicing. If you look at the trajectory of those we are trying to emulate in this democracy, and we take America or the USA in particular as an example, in the 1800s, up to about the early 1900s, they were having some of these issues, and it got to a height in 1904 when there was a scandal, and this led to the Tillman Act in 1907. From the beginning of that 20th century, in 1907, they have subsequently in 1925, 1975, and then most recently in 2010, tried to
find ways to regulate moneycracy, or what my colleague just mentioned a while ago in the USA. So it is something that is sort of a global phenomenon, and because we have precedents, maybe we may follow what our predecessors have done and have proper regulations. Unfortunately, in Ghana, apart from the bits and pieces of regulations in the 1992 Constitution, and then the Act in 2000, and then maybe the Electoral Commission regulations that try to regulate how political parties are funded, we have not intentionally put up enough regulations to nip this canker in the bud.
Yeah, but the historicity you've given us tells us that it has been a challenge since, as far as we can all remember. But we know that there probably is a concern there. What steps would you advise, for instance, although there is a law, the law being implemented by the Electoral Commission or any other state agency does not seem to be able to get to the bottom of knowing who is giving these parties money or these individuals money to campaign and lead us as a people. So what suggestions would you make as the best approach for us as a country if we really want to know where these funds are coming from?
Yes, it is difficult for me to pretend as if I have a solution for this problem hands-on. But again, there are precedents here in Africa and outside Africa where regulations have been made to put a cap on political parties spending during campaigns. But you see, the problem across board has always been about implementation. It is so difficult to implement some of the rules, even though they will be on paper like we have in Ghana by the Electoral Commission. You see, the situation in most African countries, especially our neighbors in Nigeria, where they have a cap. But at the end of the day, in practice, the political parties spend far more than it is prescribed on paper. So it is okay that we start from a point, but there is no one-off solution. We have to gradually, as a people, reorient ourselves towards what we intend to achieve in the democracy that we have subscribed to. That's why I gave the history, because we are a young democracy. Sometimes it is good that you study from precedents, from other sources who have practiced similar systems. But to say that there is a one-off solution, that is going to be very difficult.
Challenge.
So the first stage is to have comprehensive rules to safeguard some of these things that we are talking about. Like I gave the instance, in 1907, when there was the Tillman Act, there were loopholes. So they looked at the challenges, revised them in 1925, revised it in 1974, and then subsequently in 1910, it was strengthened. But even that, if you check the last elections in America, particularly the 2020 elections, there were still allegations of some of this moneycracy in the system. So it is difficult to say there is a one-off solution. Maybe we should look at the situation holistically, not just from the perspective of the political parties, but as a people, and we decide to take a stance on what we intend to achieve in our democracy. And then reorient ourselves strategically to reduce this trend of spending a lot of money virtually to buy power.
Okay. Doc, thank you so much for your time this evening and your thoughts that you share on this subject. Dr. Ali Nyaba is a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The overarching concern really would be that you and I need to know who is funding the member of parliament that is taking decisions on your behalf, and we need to know the parties that struggle or campaign to come into power to get our mandate to lead. If you do not know, and it is probably a very wealthy individual or a wealthy group of people, then they will be calling the shots at the end. That is the concern that CDD is trying to draw our attention to. So it is a very important national conversation to have. And that is why we are happy that you're also sending in your messages on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition. And we're shifting our attention to business now.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, and Exploco to drill 2 new exploration wells by Q3 of 2026, opening onshore Voltaian Basin to investors. We'll hear from President John Dramani Mahama. I am Bismarck Ausa. This headline story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. President John Dramani Mahama has announced that the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, and its exploration arm, Exploco, will drill 2 new exploration wells before the end of the third quarter of 2026. Speaking at the Africa Oil Week in Accra, the president said the move underscores government's commitment to expand oil and gas exploration both onshore and offshore, highlighting the Voltaian Basin as one of the continent's most promising frontiers.
On these prospects, ladies and gentlemen, it is instructive to note that Ghana, like most African countries, has large and licensed acreages across our offshore and onshore basins. The onshore Voltaian Basin presents one of the most exciting frontiers on the continent. The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, and its exploration subsidiary, Exploco, are advancing preparations to drill 2 new exploration wells by the end of the third quarter of 2026. This presents a unique farming opportunity for partners seeking to pioneer Ghana's onshore potential. Under my leadership, we're committed to building a business environment in Ghana that meets investors' expectations while safeguarding our national interest. I took office in January. We immediately signaled to the investment community that Ghana's upstream sector is open once again for business.
And that was President John Dramani Mahama announcing that the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, and its exploration arm, Exploco, will drill 2 new exploration wells before the end of the third quarter of 2026. Moving on, the city is tipped to record modest stability in the coming days, buoyed by positive investor sentiment following the disbursement of a $360 million concessional loan from the World Bank. Analysts believe stronger foreign exchange support will help anchor this outlook, though upcoming monetary policy decisions at home and abroad remain key in shaping market direction. There is more in the following 3 business news desk report. The cedi is projected to record some modest stability in the short term, supported by the World Bank's $316 billion concessional loan and expectations of stronger forex interventions. This comes after the local currency endured sustained depreciation over the last 2 weeks across both the interbank and retail markets. On the interbank market, the cedi weakened from a mid-rate of 11 cedis 40 pesos to 12 cedis 15 pesos against the US dollar. It also slipped by more than 6% to trade at 16 cedis 45 pesos to the pound and 14 cedis 23 pesos to the euro. In the retail market, the cedi lost nearly 7% to close at 13 cedis 40 pesos to the dollar, while trading at 17 cedis 60 pesos and 15 cedis 45 pesos to the pound and euro respectively. Data Bank research attributed the recent losses to heightened seasonal demand, weak market sentiment, and delayed forex supply interventions. However, it maintains that the World Bank loan and improved foreign exchange support should provide some relief going forward. Currently, the cedi is selling at 13 cedis 60 pesos to the dollar at the forex bureaus and 12 cedis 20 pesos on the interbank market, with a year-to-date gain of over 16% against the US dollar. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on the cedi expected to see modest stability on the back of World Bank's $360 million concessional loan. Bringing us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company.
Are you ready?
Something big is happening in Accra. It's 3FM Afro Connect, a grand celebration of African unity, culture, and creativity in Ghana.
This September, Africa will unite to celebrate the beauty and cultural diversity of the continent right here in Accra, Ghana. The whole continent is gathering in one place at the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park on Nkrumah Holiday, the 22nd of September 2025 from 9 a.m. Experience the rhythms, the art, the fashion,
and the unforgettable spirit of unity. Exhibitions, food and vendor markets, and of course, the legendary 3FM Jollof Wars. This year, AfroConnect gets even bigger and better with the Osajifo Night Concert. Buy your tickets on *725*2226#. That's *725*2226# for 100 Ghana cedis. To be a vendor for this Pan-African celebration, call us on 0531 100 927 and 0532 200 927 to book your space.
Don't forget, it's happening at the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, Accra, on the 22nd of September from 9 a.m.
Proudly sponsored by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Welcome back. It's still Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. 10 residents in Ablekuma North who failed to take up in a cleanup exercise last Saturday have been summoned to appear in court this week. The Ablekuma North Municipal Assembly served notices for all individuals to get involved in a cleanup exercise, which was slated for last Saturday. But some shop owners and residents failed to show up for the exercise, compelling the Assembly to take action. There's more in the following report.
Please serve notices directing all shop owners and officers not to open their premises for businesses until the exercise was over. However, some recalcitrant residents and shop owners went ahead to open their businesses and refused to participate in the one-day exercise. This compelled the task force led by the Ablekuma North Environmental Department to serve the respective individuals with summons to appear before the court. Ruby Ayram Banyini, the environmental officer for Ablekuma North Municipality, said all those who participated in the campaign have their names written, while those who did not participate would face the law.
And so, as a start, when we came here, all those who participated in the cleanup, their names have been written. In the week, we come and serve them notices of non-compliance because we've made announcements, we've issued letters to inform the public that they must participate. And this cleanup or this National Sanitation Day cleanup exercises are very important for all of us as Ghanaians.
The Ablekuma North Municipal Chief Executive Adamu Musa Kalamu, who led the exercise by participating and ate from dawn to midday, further noted that the Assembly is enforcing the Assembly bylaws on Operation Clean Up Your Frontage. The Assembly members, Municipal Coordinating Director, and identifiable groups including the Community Police Assistant participated in the cleanup exercise. Confirming the summoning of 10 individuals, Mr. Kalamu said, for all those who opened their shops during the stipulated time, the necessary disciplinary action would be instituted against them.
Well, that's it for the news here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. For more details, log on to 3news.com. 3FM Drive team is up next with Trickmatic and DJ Faculty. Don't go away.